What's up, everybody? We are back for another waiver wire video, and as we get closer and closer to fantasy baseball playoffs, every week these waiver wire ads just become a little bit more important. So in this video, we're going to go over my main waiver wire targets. We're going to go over some guys that I think are just under rostered, who should be on more rostered, and as always, we'll always recap my previous waiver wire picks just to see if a punishment was justified. Like it, hype it, bang it. I'm Chris, and welcome to Number 2 Sports. Okay, first up, we have one of the remaining big prospect promotions, and I'm sure there will be more after the MLB trade deadline as players trade away players to open up more spots or players go to team environments where they'll get more playing time. But we have Detroit's number 1 ranked prospect and MLB Pipeline's number 13th overall ranked prospect, and we always just get excited about upside, even though I feel like it could be a slight reach for him to be a staple in 12 league teams to close out the year. But regardless, though, I'm excited about it. We have Max Clark from the Detroit Tigers. So really seemingly having a spot open for him since the beginning of the year, Detroit decided not to call him up and let him play it out in AAA this year. And whether that was the right call or not can be debated, as his season line in AAA has been 276, 368, 434 with an 802 OPS. He did pop 11 home runs and swipe 21 bags, just showing that elite fantasy potential that have people just going crazy in dynasty and keeper formats. And to his credit though, for redraft leagues, he has absolutely just turned it on in the month of July, batting .338 with 5 home runs, 4 steals, and a 1.086 OPS. So Clark does just project to be an elite plate discipline guy, contact first guy with some speed, kind of similar to like Sam Antonacci over in the Chicago White Sox for fantasy. So a lot of his value will depend on where he bats in the order and how much and how efficient he will be at swiping bags at the MLB level. And that's just because I don't know if the power looks like it'll be MLB ready yet. He had a 39% hard hit rate in AAA. He doesn't barrel a ton of baseballs, and his average exit velocity is only 88 miles per hour. One thing that does help uplift those underlying metrics though is his pull air percentage at almost 20%. And things do just also change when a player gets called up. I always just find it so frustrating when people just immediately label prospects before they've even took one major league at bat yet. It's just like a personal pet peeve of mine. And I know the gap between AAA and the MLB is huge, but guys that have strong plate discipline and good contract metrics just have a much higher chance, a way higher floor of succeeding and hitting the ground running right away when they're promoted at the MLB level. And Max Clark is just kind of that guy. All in all, I would still add Clark in all 12 league teams where he's available because we chase upside and he's just oozing with it. And sometimes these prospects can just catch lightning in a bottle to close out the year over the last 8 weeks of the season. Like, just check out what Jacob Marcy did last year for fantasy managers down the stretch. I'm not super over the moon about Max Clark until I kind of see what the situation is going to look on a day-to-day basis, but I like the profile, and like best case scenario for him to close out the year would be something like AJ Ewing off the New York Mets. And we know how good and how productive Ewing's been for 12 league teams so far this year. Next up, we have someone who's almost assuredly going to get traded at the deadline from the New York Mets. For any contender just looking to give a little bolster to their starting pitching rotation, close to finishing up his rehab, pretty much ready to go. I think they're just waiting for the deadline. We have Clay Holmes from the New York Mets. So returning from a fractured fibula, Holmes has looked sharp in his rehab outing so far, and he was enjoying a very productive season before that fluke injury, that comebacker, posting a 2.39 ERA, a 1.110 whip, and a 45-18 strikeout to walk ratio in 52.2 innings. His expected stats, I get, weren't as kind, as he had an expected FIP of 3.7, kind of suggesting that he was pretty lucky on the bump this year, but he does have a deep arsenal and just always peppers that strike zone, which you like to see. He attacks you with a sinker-heavy approach, followed up by a sweeper, both moving in opposite directions, and then saves his changeup for lefties. His sinker is his best pitch, and he increased the usage onto the lawn in 2026 with increased shape and movement on it, and the results are kind of showing, or at least showed so far in 2026 when he was healthy. I think Holmes could be a solid addition to any contender, and as long as the transition is smooth to his new home and there's no big drastic changes in how he pitches, I could see him being like a solid end of the rotation type guy in 12 league teams to close out the year. And all right, I don't know if this is real life or not, you know, highlighting relievers in back-to-back videos. Mom, get the camera. But we have another reliever up next year, potentially, probably moving into the closer situation over in Arizona. We have the hard throwing lefty Brandon Garcia. I also don't know why Brendan's parents spelt his name like that. I don't know. It kind of gives me the ick. So after earning back-to-back saves on the 28th and the 29th, and the Diamondbacks manager saying Paul Seaweed is just out of the closer role, at least temporarily, Garcia does have a chance to cement himself as the ninth inning guy to finish this year off. It's certainly no guarantee whatsoever that he will get the gig all to himself. I know that. And they also hinted that it would be that dreaded, disgusting closer by committee approach that everyone hates. But all it ever takes in those situations is just for one guy to separate himself from the pack. And Garcia already has the leg up, already has the edge this week to hold it down all for himself. But I hope that since he's a lefty, that he's not just going to get used against lefty batters in the ninth, but time will tell. Garcia has a nasty 3-pitch arsenal, sinker at 97 miles per hour, which is elite for a lefty, a sweeper, and a cutter. He pitches from a low arm slot at 17 degrees with very little, if like any extension at all. He's in the first percentile, which kind of disrupts hitters' timings with his arm side to glove side movement in his pitching profile. If you are still chasing saves out there in a 12-team league, Garcia is definitely a solid target to see if he can get a stranglehold on that ninth inning, continue to pitch well, and solidify himself as the go-to option to close out ball games for the Arizona Diamondbacks to finish 2026. Also, my hair is actually insane. Like, what? Looks like I'm in middle school in the 2000s, but I'm kind of digging it, man, you know? But next up here, we're going to go with a guy that's going to be really heavily dependent on the trade deadline, as he's just not receiving enough consistent playing time, at least right now, to be super useful for fantasy. But we have the switch hitting Pedro Ramirez from the Chicago Cubbies. So Ramirez was very productive at AAA this year, hitting 9 home runs with 19 stolen bases and a 942 OPS in 43 games, just showing that fantasy potential that he does have, that he does possess. He displayed elite contact rates with above average power metrics with a very healthy 16.16% strikeout rate, which you just love to see from young hitters. Of course, not all of that has translated to the majors yet, but I just can't say it enough, can't harp it enough. It just can be so challenging not being an everyday player, especially for these young guys, getting any sort of rhythm whatsoever when your entire life you've just never sat. You've played every single day. But to his credit, he has really turned it on in July, going 15 for 39 with a 45% hard hit rate, a 16% strikeout rate, 11% walk rate, and an average exit velocity of 89 miles per hour. Pedro Martinez is simply just a good baseball player that is currently blocked at the major league level. He has elite contact skills powered with plus raw power at just 22 years old. If I was doing any trade talks with the Chicago Cubs this deadline, Pedro Ramirez would be my must get back in return no matter what. So with a 322 average through his first 87 big league at-bats, the question is here, are the Cubs just willing to deal him to boost their chances at a World Series run this year, and where he's going to go to potentially a rebuilding team and become an everyday player? So really, it's not a bad idea to stash him now until the deadline just to see if that happens, because if he does end up becoming an everyday player for a rebuilding team or a team that's going to make a spot for him to see what he can showcase over the last 8-ish weeks of the season, I think he could end up becoming a very productive player for 12 league teams over the final course of the season here. Okay, now let's do some shallow league ads here, just players that I think should be rostered more that are still somewhat wildly available based on Yahoo percentages. And first up, we have Royce Lewis. Now, Lewis, I know years back kept us dreaming of what he might be able to accomplish over a full season when he posted that nasty 920 OPS and 152 WRC plus over 239 plate appearances. I think it was like 3 years ago. I don't think we're ever getting that again, though, at least that type of player. But he has been much better since he got sent down in his timeout in AAA, spanked his bottom. And since June 6th, the day he was recalled, he's had a 43% hard hit rate, a 21% K rate, and a 10% walk rate, with first base, second base, and third base eligibility in Yahoo. I just think Lewis should be on way more rosters, should have the ability to fit on way more starting rosters, and I think he could have a very productive last 8-ish weeks of the season to close out 2026. Okay, and I know we've talked about this guy a lot. It's crazy. Mariner bias goes hard, but like Dominic Canzone, is he just back to playing every day against lefties now? I know when we last talked about him, when he was in the main waiver wire section, that we recapped him, they kind of lied about his playing time. They said he was going to be an everyday player, then voila, like 2 games later, he was sitting 2 days, playing 1, sitting 2 days, yada, yada, yada. But now it looks like he's back, hitting lefties, crushing lefties. And just based on how he's always been such a good play against right-handers in daily leagues, he always just crushes righties. And the underlying power metrics that we've talked about a lot now are absurd. They're great. Everything looks good under the hood. And he's seemingly playing every day for good now. Like, I swear, if I recommend him again, and then the second I do that, he goes back to sitting every other day, like, I'm just going to cry, man. But when Canzone's getting every day at bats and he's showing improvements like he has so far this year against left-handed pitching, I think like Canzone's almost like a must roster player at this point. What do you guys think about him? Am I tripping again? Am I going to get the reverse Jimmy? He's going to go back to sitting every other day the second that this video gets posted? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, and then last up for guys that I just think should be on more rosters, we got Alberto Hernandez from the Miami Marlins. Now, he's a repeat guy. We've talked about him a bunch. And, I just want to squeeze my own titties just for 1 second here, because I think we were like one of the first people to recommend him before he continued to hit well, before he continued to hit power. And a lot of these other guys started like picking him up as a recommendation. I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe I wasn't, but whatever. I think getting on that Alberto Hernandez train early has sort of paid off now. The power is legit. The role is legit. And 17% owned is just way too low with a player with this potential power to finish the year off. Okay, and the last guy up here, who I still think is under roster, the starting pitcher who we have talked about a bunch on this channel already, and that's going to be Walbert Orenia from the Los Angeles Angels. Now, he's a flamethrower. All his underlying metrics are great. They're all bright red. He does walk a few too many guys. He can struggle with his control at time, but still, he's a guy who's pitching great. He had 2 great starts and has really been pitching great for a while now. He has a 2.7 ERA with 88 strikeouts and 93.1 innings. He has a solid 4-pitch arsenal, and I know the defense behind him is lousy, but he's still only 22 years old, so he's just going to continue to get better every single day, every single time that he steps out on that bump. I think this stuff's too good. The potential is too good for Orenia to only be 37% rostered in Yahoo. I think that number has to be over 50%. It's recap time. Did I f*** over your team this week? Stay tuned to find out. Okay, you saw the intro, recap time. We always recap my prior waiver wire video every single week, hold myself accountable, see how those guys did, and see if a punishment is justified. So we're going recapping my prior waiver wire video. Make sure to check this out because a lot of these guys probably are potentially still available from July 25th. And first up, we had a little Bobby Witt Jr. replacement, at least potential, with Nasim Nunez. Now, he didn't have the greatest week hitting at all, but he still picked up the steals, which you like to see, and that's going to be the main thing with him. He needs to continue to hit, to let his legs work. And if he does that, he's going to definitely be useful to close out the year for 12 league teams. I still like him as a pickup. Next up, we had Jim Leahy, and sometimes I just can't resist, and it just cracks me up. Some of the comments that I see on these videos, like, do you guys like that or not? I don't know. It gets me every time. But we had Kyle Leahy from the St. Louis Cardinals, and he had a great start on Sunday, going 6 innings, 9 Ks, quality start against the Cincinnati Reds. And I'm still into Leahy. I love that his 4-seamer usage is going to continue to trend down. If it continues to do that and let his secondaries go to work, I think I'm still in on Kyle Leahy for 12 league teams to close out the year. And then we had Shane Drohan, who actually, when I was recording that video, kind of got lit up a little bit against the Rockies. It wasn't terrible. He still went 6 innings, but it was not what we were expecting at all as a home matchup against the Rockies. You'd like to see him dominate like he had before. He actually got to start pushed back a little bit, so we don't have any data to go off. I'm still kind of into Shane. I like what he has the ability to do. I like how he pitches. So I'm going to be very curious about his next start to see if he can kind of bounce back from that outing and see and kind of show us, at least, or show us what we had seen in the previous starts before he had that letdown against Colorado. And then Ty France, like, it seemed like a layup one. He just continues to hit. So, like, I don't know what's over in the water there in San Diego, but when he's continuing to hit, you can't really just let him float on any waiver wire. Like, he's got to be owned on every 12-league team, like, yesterday. And then Victor Mesa Jr. actually was kind of a big swing and a miss here. He sat 3 of the games. He still picked up a couple of hits, but that is not what we want at all, not what we want to see at all, him just sitting like that. And if he doesn't have everyday playing time, there is zero reason to hold on to him in 12 league teams. Just throw him on the watch list, see if something's going to happen at the deadline or if something happens where he's going to get everyday playing time. So that's a big miss by me, boys. And then we had Ryan Waldschmidt as the last deep league ad there, who's just continuing to hit. Again, we talked about him lots this year. I do like what he brings to the table. If he can continue to hold down an everyday playing role, continue to hit, I like what he could potentially do over the summer months as like kind of like a potentially power, speed, contact guy who could really help elevate some teams and some 12 league teams over the final 8-ish weeks of the season. So I don't know, we're a little bit over 50% here. So we got Nunez was good, Leahy was good, France was good, and Waldschmidt was good. And then obviously Shane Drohan was kind of like a wash because he didn't get to pitch, but I still like him. And then obviously Victor Mesa Jr. was the big 2 thumbs down. So you know what? I'm going no punishment on that one, boys. But we haven't had ones for so long. If I have the time, I might sneak one in here. Because Nunez's production really was pretty crappy this week. I'll admit it. Even though I still do like his rest of season upside. So if you see it, you see it. If not, all right, guys, I think that's it for this video. Another waiver wire video in the books. As always, man, I'll try to reply to every single comment, every single video. It's my favorite part about doing the shit, just shooting the shit about fantasy baseball. I appreciate the support, liking it, hyping it, commenting it, all the views, all the likes, all the interaction. It's awesome. For you guys that always watch the end of the videos, I know I said last week that I probably wasn't going to do a video this week. But here we are, man. I'm just absolutely addicted to this shit. I'm just a fiend for it. So I hope you guys enjoy. And as always, have a good rest of your day, night, week, weekend, wherever you are. And I'll see you guys real soon.